Brenden is a Utah native, born and raised, and he's been part of our Hill Air Force Base family for 10 years. Some of the things he loves to do is cooking, being outdoors, working with horses, and making memories with his family. He has a beautiful wife and 5 beautiful children. A few years ago, his passion, he ran into, well, actually, a few years ago, he was introduced to barbecue, and that's where his real love and passion began. So, Brenden, welcome to you. Thanks so much for being here, and over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate it. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today to be able to talk with you guys. So starting out, I want to ask a few questions that I hope you guys can think about throughout this presentation. So for me, one of the things that I've always had a hard time answering, and I'm sure many of you have, is what do I want to be when I grow up? That is something that has never been easy for me to answer, nor have I really been able to answer it. I've done quite a few things throughout my life, construction, sales, administrative, various different jobs, from traveling to heavy mobile equipment mechanic and doing all sorts of other things. But throughout my life, as I've journeyed through, I've realized that not being able to answer that question, not necessarily the question itself, but not being able to answer what do I want to be when I grow up was something that frustrated me and still sometimes offers a little bit of frustration for me. And to those that have been able to answer that question, congrats. I'm excited for you. But for those of us that have not, it might be a source of struggle. And hopefully I'll cover a few things today that might actually help you be able to answer that question for yourself. So for me, I was on a trip down in Texas for a 3-month TDY. And some of the people that I have worked with have said, you've got to go and try Salt Lick barbecue. So for me, I decided, you know what, go ahead and try it out. So me, my wife, and a few of my friends, we went and tried this food out. I mean, when somebody tells you $20, all you can eat, I mean, I'm a big guy anyway, so why not? So that's what we did. We went and tried it out. And as we ate our fill of barbecue, I ate so much, in fact, that my wife had to end up driving us home because I physically could not drive. Now, as I think about that, that's where it all started for me, coming home, realizing, you know what, there isn't that kind of caliber of barbecue. I mean, let's face it, everything's bigger in Texas. The food down there is amazing. It's just a great place to be. And as I came home, I wasn't able to find that same caliber of barbecue that I once had, or I had down in Texas. So that started me kind of on a little journey that I'm going to walk you guys through here. So as I started out, I started looking for restaurants here locally. There weren't any, at least that I could find, that were pretty close. So as I set out studying, well, what makes good barbecue? Well, trying to replicate what I had down in Texas, that's kind of where I started. And one thing led to another. YouTube for quite a few months, almost probably well worth into a year worth of watching YouTube videos, reading about it, trying to understand it, decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger. So I bought a little $300 smoker from Lowe's and ended up trying some barbecue. And I'm a firm believer, in order to make good barbecue, you have to make a lot of bad barbecue. And honestly, my wife and family could probably attest to that there was probably some stuff that was a little on the rough side coming off the grill in the smoker first off. But I never gave up. I think that's the one key premise that I had to realize, is that, you know what, I got to keep doing this, because it was bugging me that I just wanted the brisket, the ribs, the coleslaw, the sides, all the goodies that come with barbecue. It's just what I wanted. So I kept at it, I kept going, and something changed, something clicked. I don't know what it was. I don't know when it was. And I sure as heck did not expect this to become something that I could see myself doing the rest of my life. And something happened, something changed, and I want to share some stuff with you. Here on the screen, we've got a couple of things that ended up working out for me. Suddenly, my brisket was turning out phenomenal. My pork butts were fall apart, just like pulled pork should be, almost textbook style ribs. The perfect bite through, the perfect consistency, flavor was on point. And I know this is kind of a little rude. It's just before lunch, so here I am showing you a bunch of pictures of wonderful looking food. And so that started out. I started sharing my food with my family and friends. And I figured, well, if they're not going to tell me what it really was like, and if it was really good, I mean, they're my family. They gotta tell me that it's good. I started bringing it into work and sharing it with my coworkers and people that I worked around in the building with. And then I started having people request it. Hey, you bring in some of that barbecue? That stuff was amazing. That mac and cheese was awesome. I've never had anything like it. To reconnecting with a couple of buddies from high school, and in the interim started doing competitions, some little backyard things, little things here and there, and I started winning. I took first and second place in meats and sides. I started having people, hey, can you do something for me as a family party, family get together? Absolutely, I would love to. And here I am a few years later, now talking to you guys about finding your passion. And there's something that I like to describe. Passion, Webster's dictionary basically says passion describes it as something that is a never-ending, or a desire to constantly become better. You're never satisfied with it, in essence, paraphrasing. And I'm going to walk through how I found my passion in life and how I use that in my day-to-day life, and utilize that here at work. So first of all, it has to be something that's personal, something that you want. And you might think, everybody's always told us or told you, just do something you're passionate about, just something that just something you're passionate about. Well, I mean, what does that mean to you? That could be very different things for very different people. So I feel that it has to be personal. It has to be something that you want, not only in here, but also in here. You need to take action. You remember me talking about how I studied YouTube videos for probably months on end, watching, reading, anything I could get my hands on about barbecue and how to do it. I had to be willing to serve other people. I had to oftentimes give my food away, like, hey, try this out. Tell me what you think about it. And be honest about, that feedback. If somebody tells you, it wasn't very good, take that, work off of it, do what you got to do. It needs to be simple. My idea of barbecue, how much more simpler can that get? But if I'm not able to explain in detail and help somebody go through the process, I often find myself probably teaching and helping people now more than ever. Got guys that I work with that'll call me up, guys and gals, that'll call me up and say, hey, I'm in the middle of cooking a brisket right now, and this is what it's doing. I don't know, should I pull it? Should I leave it? What should I do? And that's the thing I love about it, because it's such a simple idea, but it's something that I love doing day in and day out. And it makes it even funner for me when I get to help other people. I need to implement, honestly, that idea that started of, well, I can't have barbecue that I had down in Texas down here, so might as well figure it out for myself. I took all that time, that effort, that energy in studying it, reading about it, practicing, cooking, and finally made it work. And I had to implement all of that information into an action and actually follow through with it. Now, I didn't make everything perfectly right off the bat, but implementing that action is definitely what led to my success. And realizing that I have to do things one step at a time. Before I went out and bought a really nice smoker, I started out little. There are people around us that started out with small ideas in a garage and have become very successful today. Be willing to reach out for help. Realize that you need to walk before you can run, and sometimes you might even have to crawl before you walk. Exploring that idea, pushing it forward, because honestly, if you don't ever implement or use that in taking that one step at a time, those will only be dreams. You will just, a dream is something that, I'll get to one day, or it's just not the right time, and maybe that is the case. But in the meantime, learn everything you can about that. One step, one shot here and there, all as you go. It's perfect, and that's the way you need to do it. And last but not least, never give up. Oftentimes there are people in our lives, friends, family, those that we hold near and dear, that sometimes are our biggest critics, but also the biggest critic of often I find of ourselves is often myself. I am my own worst critic, right? I mean, I'm sure everybody else can relate to that as well. But never give up. If it's something that you want, keep going for it, regardless of what everybody says. I used to fear failure. I used to not like it. I mean, let's be honest. When you cook something and you give it to somebody, you're like, I really hope they love it. Whether that's interior decorating or design or wanting to go to school, it really kind of just, the sky's the limit. Do what you want to do because you want to do it, and never give up. So at the end of the day, passion. Find something that you're passionate about. Okay, well, let's recap. Make it sure it's personal. Take action. Give of yourself. It says a lot about you. Make sure it's simple, something that you understand and something that you can, articulate easily with other people. Implement that action. Actually make a game plan. Reach out to people who have done it or doing something similar to what you're doing. They're always willing to give help. There's more than enough people out there that are always willing to help. Realizing that it takes time, one step at a time, and that's the way you got to do it. Don't run before you can walk. And like I said, if you need to crawl before you walk, do it. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And then most importantly is never giving up. So my question at the beginning, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mine happens to be a passion for barbecue, and that applies into my daily life. How? Well, I love cooking for people. I mean, I'm a big guy. I love to cook. The smoker's always running, and that's okay. But more importantly, I love showing and sharing my gift and talent with other people. And that plays into my everyday life. Realizing that serving other people is what I love and enjoy doing all the time. So my call to action for you is find something that you're interested in. Chase that idea, follow the passion, personal, action, implement, service, or service, simple, implement, one step, and never give up. And maybe you too will find your passion in the most unlikely of ways. Thank you for your time. I appreciate this opportunity I've had to speak with you guys, and have a great day.